What is up, disc golfers? We have a different type of video today on Iceberg TV. I want to go into my vault of discs and show you guys 4 of the discs that have helped shape my game and had an instant impact on making me a better disc golfer. So there's 4 discs on this list, and the first one that I want to start with is going to be the Sexton Firebird. So I have a stack of these things. It's the only disc that I actually collect. So I want to give a little bit of a backstory, so a little bit of a story time as well. I think that's going to be a fun part of this series that I want to start. So this is the one that's actually in my bag. So this is a 2018 Sexton Firebird. You can see the stamp is almost completely wiped off. This is one of the first discs I ever bought for myself. I've lost this disc in a sewage drain. I've lost this disc in a blue algae lake, Lake Olmsted. Pretty famous course. They've had worlds there. Lost it. Scuba Steve found it, got it back to me. So the Sexton Firebird is one of the discs that I depend on more than any other disc, and it'll never leave my bag as long as I'm able to throw an open bag and don't get a sponsorship at any point in time from like another company, which I don't foresee happening anytime soon. This will always be a staple in my bag for those forehand shots that I need to depend on that flex shot, have a dependable hyzer into a headwind.
Away from the basket.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the backhand, if you get it just gliding down that hillside, it can be really, really long putt.
And then I want to go over just a couple of these other ones that are in the stack because I think this one I bought retail, and then I have some 2020s that I bought retail, but the rest of them were like gifts and trades and such, and they all have a little bit of sentimental value to me. So, say goodbye to that one.
Innova Destroyer, just trying to fall into the hillside and get a putt.
Dylan following suit. He's going a little bit straighter, it looks, and if that sits, that's pretty good. I even say he got nubbed. Those baskets don't even have them.
Got news.
Yeah, that's a solid birdie there by Daz, though. Dylan, yeah. Getting,
the next one that I want to talk about is going to be this 2019 Sexton Firebird. So this one just was a gift from one of my friends recently. So this one doesn't have as much sentimental value, but it is the only 2019 that I have currently. So just it's part of the collection. I just like to collect these, so it's cool to finally get my hands on a 2019. This one is really cool. So I got this one from my friend Bob right before I left America and moved to Australia. So I traded Bob for this one, and him and I had a very competitive relationship, and Bob and I always go back and forth at each other. We used to play Boundary Waters disc golf course. There was 2 courses on one property. We would play both courses, always dead heat matchups. And one day he switched from Firebirds to the MVP Motion, and he traded this disc to me because he no longer needed it. And one of the very first times I ever threw it, I had about a 300-foot skip ace on hole 2 of Boundary Waters 1, and he at that moment said, "I'm never trading you another disc ever again. This is the last one." So I threw a crazy forehand skip ace splash. It was a really cool shot, great day. Great disc, sentimental value. I'll probably never trade this one, especially any Sexton Firebird with an ace on it. Always just gonna keep. And then that tie-dye stamp one, that first one that I've been bagging forever, has 2 aces on it. Move on to the next one. So this is just a backup 2018. So the 2018 is my favorite run of them. I find that they're the most flat and also the most overstable. Aside from the 2017, which is more stable, but they're also a bit more domey, which I don't love. So the Sexton Firebird, I got this one from my friend Justin. He's an American friend here living in Australia. I play with him all the time. We play a lot of glow disc together. So thanks, Justin, appreciate that. So this was the first 2017 Sexton Firebird that I ever got. So the 2017 Sexton Firebird is heaps more stable than the 2018, but it has a bit more dome than the 2018. So the 2017 might make it into my bag one of these days if I decide I finally feel comfortable with that little bit of dome. But I don't foresee that happening. But just to complete the collection, these are actually really hard to find. So I'm super pumped to have this. On to the next one. I have one more 2018 that's again super flat, same party time stamp as the one that I bagged, so I'll never get rid of this thing. I already inked it, wrote my name on it so people know what's up, and it's just as flat as the one that I bagged, just as stable out of the box. Crazy, I love this thing, never gonna trade it. It's always good to have a backup. I actually just acquired this one just a few days ago. So I got this one 2 days ago. I had a metal flake whippet, and there's a guy here in Australia, Alan. He wanted it really badly, and I said, what do you have in your car? And he's like, oh, I just got a couple of discs, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I looked through the discs, didn't see anything special, and then we got on a conversation of Firebirds, and he's like, oh, I think I have a Firebird somewhere. And then he pulls this thing out, and I was like instantly just frothing this. I really wanted it, and I was like, we have a deal, super pumped. And then that metal flake whippet is a super cool disc as well, so I didn't feel too bad about the trade. He was super happy, he loves whippets. So yeah, got this bottom stamp USDGC Sexton Firebird. Thank you to Alan for helping me get this in my collection. And then the last two that I bought for retail, these are just two 2020 Sexton Firebirds. I actually don't love these, but I have them just for the collection. These ones are a little bit domier and a little bit less stable. I would consider these like the T-Bird of the Firebird. So yeah, we'll just keep those back in the stash as well. And so the next disc, number 2 on this list, is gonna be the Innova Star Wraith. So the Star Wraith is basically my main workhorse distance driver. I will only throw them on backhand lines, aside from I have one that's a lot more stable that I'll throw into like a right to left tailwind, because it'll pick up and ride the wind and go super far. I can actually push 500 feet with that shot if there's the right wind. So the Star Wraith is my staple driver in my bag. I love these. I was backhanding Destroyers, but I wasn't having a ton of success. I found that bumping down to an 11 speed, a little bit less wide of a rim, has had a tremendous impact on my backhand drives, and I see myself bagging Wraiths for a long, long time. So this Wraith was a gift from my dad. This is the most stable Wraith I'd ever thrown at that time. So Wraiths tend to have like a really good flip out of the box, but this one was crazy beefy. So this one's really stable, and I like to throw it into headwinds, but gift from my dad, very sentimental. So this is probably the coolest Wraith that I have. So this is a Cassie Sweeten Signature Series Wraith. So Cassie is the top female player in Australia, and she has been for basically forever, for a really long time. So I was in Tasmania at Tasmania Nationals, and I found one of her Wraiths on the ground. We were just warming up together, and I was just joking, and I picked up one of her Climo Wraiths with an Innova team stamp on it, and I was like, ooh, can I have this? Like, just jokingly. And she was like, no, you can't have that one, but you can have this one. And she gave me this really sweet silver stamp Cassie Sweeten Wraith. So this one's a bit gummier. It's a little bit better in cold weather, and it's by far the most stable Wraith I've ever thrown. So I'll throw this one on backhand and that forehand line I was talking about before, where I flick it into that right to left wind. It'll pick up and just go so far. Just goes for days. And then my flippiest Wraith is this Glow Wraith. I got this off my friend Nick. I traded him a really cool Prodigy D2 for it, and that day he traded it to me, he very willingly traded it to me, but then now we always make jokes. He always says he wants it back, and I'm like, nah man, this is my favorite Wraith. I can't trade it back to you. I throw it on every single hole.
Yeah, 140 metre par 4 is a bit of a must-get birdie here.
Definitely plays significantly uphill, but you know, as long as you give it the air, your drive should set you up really well, and Dylan's done that perfectly there.
Yes.
And so now he's like, we always joke about, he always wants his Wraith back. He's like, I don't know what the heck I was thinking that day. I want that Wraith back. So thanks, Nick. Appreciate you trading me this thing. It's my favorite driver. So the next disc on this list is going to be the Innova Destroyer. So the Innova Destroyer is my preferred forehand distance driver. So the Destroyer has that little bit wider rim, which for me feels better for forehand distance shots. It's got a little bit more high speed stability, so if I flick a Wraith, it's gonna like turn and burn because forehands just tend to do that a little bit more. So with these Destroyers, I'm actually able to get a nice big, they pick up and go left for a really long ways or really straight depending on what I'm looking for, and then they'll have a strong finish and maybe a skip at the end. So
wow, that's money.
Yeah, you see a lot of people go the flex sidearm again to sort of play up the hillside.
I just bagged the one Destroyer currently, but I do have 2 backup Destroyers that I really like and I'm looking forward to throwing. So currently I'm bagging the Budgie Tour Support stamp Destroyer. So these ones fly just like a Ricky Wasaki Destroyer from last year's run. They're a little bit less stable than a normal Destroyer. They pick up and have a nice amount of turn on them, but still have a strong finish, which is hard to find in a good Destroyer. They're usually too stable for most people. These ones are really great, really good run. So I have this one that I got from Budgie. Again, he's another Australian pro. He probably has the best forehand in Australia currently. So really good disc. Appreciate Budgie for hooking me up. This was his last one. I have one more backup one, that same guy that I got the bottom stamp Firebird off of, Alan. I made a bet with him in Tasmania, and this came straight out of his bag. We made a bet. I put up the Metal Flake Whippet, and he put this up against it. That basically we had a bet between how 2 players would play in the tournament, and everyone was rooting against me. Everyone thought it was a dumb bet, and I wound up winning the bet and winning this swirly Budgie Destroyer straight out of his bag. Really pretty disc. It's hard to find a good swirly Destroyer, but I love the way this one flies. It flies just like my orange one, just a little bit newer. So when the orange one gets too beat up, I have this one on deck. Super pumped to throw this one. And then this is the furthest flying Destroyer I've ever thrown in my entire life. So this is a Poimina Reserve. So at that Tasmanian Championship, this is the Players Pack disc that I got. This one, it has, seems like a bit of a Blizzard rim, but it's a Champion Destroyer. So this is the most understable Champion Destroyer I've ever touched in my whole life. This thing is absolutely crazy. I can throw 500-foot backhands with this one. I can get it to flip and ride super far. And then it does the same thing on forehand as well. Flips up, has a great finish to it, but also has a lot of turn as well. So this is a great max distance driver. Super pumped. Again, sentimental value. Most people don't ever get a chance to play in Tasmania. That's just totally amazing. Great experience, awesome tournament. So shout out to Ollie and the Tasmania guys for putting on a great comp and for having a great Players Pack disc. Now, probably gonna get some hate for this one, but the last disc on this list is the Kastaplast Berg, and this Berg was the first disc that I felt comfortable in tournament play, making consistently good shots with it. So I throw this disc primarily forehand for approach shots. The Berg, people just feel this one, they feel how like disgusting it is. It's super concave on top. People don't know how I throw this one, but I've been bagging this thing since like basically the day I started playing disc golf and taking it more seriously. I went into a Play It Again Sports, and my last name is Spangenberg, and I was just in Play It Again Sports and I saw these 2 Bergs sitting there. And I was like, oh, Kastaplast Berg, that's like my name. I'm just gonna grab these. They were like $5 each. And they both were new at the time. This one's crazy beat up now. I aced with this one back in July of 2018. Stamp's totally worn off. I've lost this one and then found it and lost it and found it and lost it and got callbacks on it. So this is the one that I bag, and this is the one that I'm gonna continue to bag. I like to throw it on nice little flick Anheuser shots mostly. So
it's gonna end up pretty much everybody ended up on that side besides Jake. This is a good run there.
Very aggressive, actually. I don't know if you meant to go that aggressive, but it worked out for him.
most people, if they have the option of like the flick Anheuser approach or the backhand Heiser approach, they'll typically take the backhand. But for me, I feel super comfortable throwing the forehand Anheuser with this disc on most of my approach shots. And the reason that I like that is because I can throw it at the basket and try and make it, and it'll dig into the ground and sort of do like a little bit of a back around the basket. So I'm able to find myself very close to the basket 9 times out of 10 anytime that I put this disc in my hand. So I'll probably, again, unless I find a way to get sponsored and no longer am able to throw Kastaplast, I will always bag probably this Berg. And then I do have this backup one, which isn't as gross and concave, so I don't like it as much. This one is like borderline illegal. I don't even know if it classifies as a Berg anymore, but we're gonna keep riding it out till it's not an actual PDGA approved disc anymore. This thing's crazy. Like, I mean, it's just a gross disc, but I just absolutely love this disc. And then heaps of sentimental value because this was the first disc that actually made me feel like I was good at disc golf. Terrible at tee shots, terrible at putting, terrible at everything, but I always didn't even have to putt because I was always right next to the basket. My friends, no matter how bad I was, they knew I was gonna get up and down with this thing.
On the fairway here.
Can you hold on to third? Or do you get up and down there? I think you will.
Yeah, that's a good shot there. That'll do it.
So this is definitely a disc that if you've never thrown it, I would give it a chance because it's a great disc, super undervalued and underrated. So I hope you guys enjoyed that list. That's basically my top 4 favorite discs, but also my top 4 discs that helped me become a better player, basically the second that I got them in my hands. And I want to make sure you guys knew that I actually throw these discs, so I have some clips of me on some actual disc golf coverage throwing them. So I hope you guys like the coverage. If you guys like sort of this story time style video, leave that in the comment section down below because I have heaps of cool discs. I have a shelf full of discs and lots of stories about most of my discs I don't buy retail. I either trade them with people or win them in bets with my friends or just find a way to like basically acquire them through more fun and interesting ways because I have so many discs that I don't really feel the need to buy discs often unless it's to like do a disc review for you guys. So leave in the comment section down below if you like this type of video. Thank you for watching. This is Iceberg TV. Take care.